Okay, hi. Sorry, we're back. Astrology and history, we're still in Greece. This is part 2. We're still at Titans, and we're at the last Titan couple about to go into the Olympians. So I'll read the last part that we finished last time and then start again. Okay, from the second book, The Intermediate's Guide to the Mystery Sciences, written by me. Part 2, Astrology in Ancient Greece. Rhea, meaning discharge or flow, was the youngest Titanide and consort to Cronus. She was the goddess of fertility and motherhood. Her symbol was a pair of lions, which even today are commonplace guardians of the home. Her husband/brother, Cronus, was the god of time, who overthrew the heavens as king of the gods. In the same way, Rhea replaced her mother, Gaia, as the source of growth and nurturing. As civilizations began to form and grow, a specific importance was placed on procreation as being the prime responsibility of women. It all went downhill from there. Rhea was mother to 6 children, who, excluding Hestia, would eventually repeat the Titan ritual of overthrowing their parents for rule of the universe. The 3 sons of Cronus were extensions of masculine power of past, present, and future. The 3 daughters of Rhea were extensions of the feminine power of growth, love, and nurturing. And then there's like a chart, and it's like the 6 children of Cronus and Rhea. Poseidon, whose dominion was the oceans. Hades, whose dominion was the underworld. And Zeus, whose dominion was the sky and thunder, or the sky below the firmament and vibration. Demeter, whose dominion was growth, harvests, and fertility. Hestia, whose dominion was the hearth, the home, and domestic relations. And Hera, whose dominion was women, marriage, family, and childbirth. There were 7 more gods and goddesses who were allotted a place among the Olympians during the reign of Zeus. They were either allies of Zeus or illegitimate children, ironically born of his idolatry against the goddess of marriage. I'm not going to touch that. So then it's like a chart of the Olympian gods, their dominion and their affiliation. So Zeus, his dominion was, he was king of the Olympian gods and thunder and the sky. His affiliation to the Olympians was that he was their leader. Hera, his wife / sister, her dominion was she was the queen of the Olympians gods and the fertility and marriage. Poseidon, whose dominion was oceans and earthquakes, he was the brother of Zeus. Hades, whose dominion was the underworld, also the brother of Zeus. Athena, whose dominion was wisdom and warfare. She was the daughter of Zeus. She's the one who was born out of his forehead. Hephaestus, whose dominion was metallurgy and inventions. He was the son of Hera. Apollo, whose dominion was harmony and the sun. He was the son of Zeus. Artemis, whose dominion was hunting and the moon, daughter of Zeus. Aphrodite, whose dominion was love and procreation, daughter or possibly sister of Zeus. Ares, whose dominion was war and violence, and he was the son of Zeus. Hermes, whose dominion was boundaries and portals, as messenger of the gods. He was considered the son of Zeus and Maya. And then the sister of Zeus, also called Demeter, her dominion was sacred law and order. And those were the Olympian gods. Zeus, Hera, Poseidon, Hades, Hephaestus, Athena, Apollo, Artemis, Aphrodite, Ares, Hermes, and Demeter. Those are the Olympian gods. The Olympian gods were the extension of the primordial gods, which man could adapt to their own understanding. What began as an allegorical explanation of the creation of the universe led to the creation of great mythological histories and adventures. Each was a story to explain a natural wonder or quality of the natures of man and his environment. But the Greeks were not the originators of this method of remembrance. In early Greek history, remember the Hellas, sea trade across the Mediterranean and land trades along the Silk Road and earlier trade routes with Mesopotamia allowed for a combination of cultures and belief systems, which gave birth to the Greek pantheon. The most obvious of these trade partners who had a large hand in developing a religious pantheon for the Greeks was Egypt. With the destiny of Alexander the Great leading to the Greek occupation of Egypt in 332 BC, the Egyptian legacy was intertwined with that of Greece. 3 centuries later, Rome relieved Greece of Egyptian rule and further desecrated the once mesmerizing culture. 700 years passed before Egypt escaped Roman tyranny. 700 years. And that completes the astrology in ancient Greece part. I thought it was gonna be longer than that, I guess. I don't know. But so what I skipped between Egypt and Greece in the videos was this like chunk of Celtic astrology, because I didn't have any of their like lore for their gods and their, you know, goddesses and stuff, and I wanted to like add that in or whatever, but I can go over that really quickly because it's fun. Just the calendar. So Celtic holy days. Pagan celebrations are based on the movement of the heavens, as this motion directly affects the earthly environment. In the northern cultures of the then known world, Norse, Celtic, Germanic, and similar pagan traditions kept their high holy days according to the 8 divisions of the seasons: 2 solstices, 2 equinoxes, and 4 cross-quarter days in between them. A solstice is a point in the year when the sun is at either end of its spectrum to our perception. At its highest point, we have the summer solstice. At its lowest point, we have the winter solstice. And when the sun and moon share equal time in our sky between the 2 solstices, we have equinoxes. The spring equinox comes after the winter solstice, but before the summer solstice. The autumnal equinox falls after the summer solstice, but before the winter solstice. Cross-quarter days are the midway points between any solstice and its succeeding equinox. They are usually observed on the new moon, whereas the quarter days are usually observed during the full moon cycle. The cross-quarter days are aligned with their respective constellations, and the quarter days all fall in between 2 constellations on the zodiac chart. Yule is the winter solstice. It marks the peak of the winter season between Sagittarius, mutable fire, and Capricorn, cardinal earth. This is the time when the sun spends the least amount of time in our view. The ancient pagan celebrations for Yule were held to commemorate the midwinter as a time of polarity to our beloved sun, who needs a rest from a year's worth of agricultural demands. When Christianity became the new dictatorship of the world, these pagan seasonal festivals were all rebranded as Christian holidays. Not too far off from the old Hebrew feast days, it was easy to make a chimera holiday which would give pagans a familiar date and Christians a convenient storyline to keep these traditions alive. Thus, we have the Christ Mass, marking the Yule season. The birth of the sun is celebrated 3 days after the winter solstice, which was widely seen as the death of the sun. The rebirth of the sun happens as a result of the days beginning to get longer after the year's shortest day on the solstice. It was convenient for the tradition to mark Yule for a Christian event because it was the most powerful tradition and still, 2,000 years later, refuses to stay down. Christians have no idea that the holiday they are celebrating has nothing to do with a live birth of a child, but everything to do with the solar death and rebirth cycles. It is not clearly written in their holy book, so they are purposefully made ignorant of the origins of their precious holiday. But then again, their holy book reveals many mysteries to those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. Ostara is the spring equinox. As the sun and moon give us equal light, we adjust our clocks and we welcome the new life that is thriving all around us. Between Pisces, which is the mutable water, and Aries, which is the cardinal fire, we celebrate the air element with all of the birth of consciousness flowing around us. This season marks the balancing aspect of spring as it peaks during the full moon cycle that transitions water to fire. Water nourishes and awakens the seeds of fire that burst forth with fertility and abundance. The goddess Inanna, or Ishtar, is celebrated as the sacred feminine transforms from her maiden stage to her mother stage. The whole of nature seems to have been reborn. and we are secure in our agricultural development. Oddly enough, the Christian rebranding of this sacred season of rebirth is Easter, the celebration of the human sacrifice, which resolves all good Christians of any wrongdoing, should they but believe this story and keep its traditions. Salvation through faith, a staple of the church, but faith is often stronger than the foundations it was built upon. If we recall, the sun being an allegorical representation of the actual sun, we can understand how this traditional day of balance and harmony can complement the Christ narrative. In pagan traditions, Yule represents both death and rebirth of the sun. In Christian traditions, the two events are separated. I suppose they were running out of narrative and had to stretch what they had. In any case, the traditions of eggs, bunnies, pastels, pine cones, and palm leaves are all sacred pagan customs which mark the spring equinox. In between the winter solstice and the spring equinox is Imbolc, the cross-quarter celebration of transition. The crone of winter is beginning her descent as the grandmother packs her bags and readies her return trip home after her long visit. We are as glad to see her off as we were to receive her. Her presence was welcomed and necessary, but now we desire to have our active life back. The maiden replaces her with vibrant enthusiasm. The grass peeks out from underneath the snow, and as it begins to melt away and reveal the potential of the earth, which is slowly awakening from a long rest. The new moon in Aquarius, which is the fixed air sign, marks the mid-season transition between winter and spring. It is a checkpoint. We have made it through the hardest part of the yearly cycle. We are revived and full of hope. Imbolc is a time for spring cleaning and setting our intentions for the upcoming spring season. Groundhog's Day. Groundhog's Day is what replaced Imbolc. Litha is the summer solstice. This holy day boasts the highest point the sun will reach all year. This is midsummer, the longest day of the year. The light of the world reaches even to the peaks of the North Pole, bringing light into the darkness. In this season, we look to the sky and give thanks for our soon-to-be harvested abundance. We have more time to explore and admire, to learn and love, and to grow. Summer solstice falls at a time when the solar orb passes between Gemini, which is the mutable air, and Cancer, which is the cardinal water. As the polarity to Yule, we celebrate our sun, while at the same time giving our moon a rest to build up her strength for the winter to come. We light bonfires, hold feasts, and celebrate the prime of our life in all of its primal glory. Between the summer solstice and the spring equinox lies Beltane. This cross-quarter celebration marks a traditional peak of the maiden becoming the mother once again. We are at the puberty stage of the yearly sun cycle. When the new moon rises in Taurus, which is your fixed earth sign, she is hungry to have her fill. She seeks a means of growth, so much so that she becomes fertile to reproduce. All she needs now is experience and energy interchange. That is what Beltane is all about. It is celebrated as a pagan festival of fertility and frolic. Bonfires are no longer lit to obtain heat, but as a signal to the world that heat can be found here. Beltane is an invitation to desire, which we express both inwardly and outwardly. In the pre-Christian days, when the pagan traditions were kept by the masses, young and old adults alike were allowed to take off their wedding rings for the night of May's Eve and celebrate unchaste fertility freely, as the sacred feminine would have us do. Socially enforced inhibitions were lost for this night until the sunrise dance around the phallic maypole was completed. So, boom, now you got the Celtic pagan holidays too. There you go. That's kind of like in between, like time period wise, it's kind of like in between Egypt's big pop and Greece's big pop. So, but there's more to that. I haven't gotten there yet. But anyway, yeah, that's the rest of Greece. I really just like labeled out the Olympians. Like, I don't really need to go any more recent in Greek religious lore than the Olympians, because from there on, everybody knows, just go watch Percy Jackson, you're good. And it's all just extravagant, like it was like a 7-season show and they just ran out of like plot. I don't know. Anyway. But yeah, so there's the end of Greece and a little bit of Celtic calendar for you. So then, I guess Rome. We'll go to Rome next. That'll be fun. Thanks.